Hello fellow builders and welcome back to another episode on the channel. It's me, Major Graft, and today we are back on the Shadow Kingdom Creative Build Discovery to look at some more plots, figure out some of the good and the bad, the do's and the don'ts of creative building. Guys, if you're enjoying the content, don't forget it really helps if you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and guys, without further ado, let's get on with the video, so please enjoy. And in today's episode we start here at plot 102, Orientalism by Luminiscient, and this is a wonderful plot, a small plot in terms of area, but an enormous amount of content packed in here. As you can see, a really nice oriental theme created, and it just shows you how much you can do in such a small space if you have a good attention to detail. And before we look at the buildings and things at the top, I want to just have a little look at this wonderful koi carp here, wonderfully done, organic, fantastic work there. But my main area of interest for this plot, and the main thing I think we can learn from it, is the value of taking time to detail your builds, because although these buildings here, there are lots of small buildings around, although they are nicely done, they are not by any stretch large or, dare I say, impressive buildings on their own. They are wonderful buildings, but they're not overly complex. They are fairly simple one-room builds. But the thing that makes the difference on this plot is the amount of time that Luminiscient has spent doing the detailing, right down to the little boxes, the bumblebees next to the flowers, these wonderful small trees with the fruit hanging from them. Everything is superbly detailed all the way through. There is not one bit missed. It really is a marvellous, marvellous example of finishing a plot. And we've said this before, and we're going to say it again in this episode, that you can try for the big fancy buildings and structures all you like, but if you don't spend that time at the end detailing and finishing a build, it really does lack something. Don't skimp on the finish. Come over here, have a look at some of what Luminiscient has done. All of this different plants and undergrowth, all really varied and handmade all the way throughout. Not one nook and cranny missed. These wonderful waterfalls and cliffs and everything. Fantastic. Even the attention to detail in the underwater to make it look like proper living water here is fantastic. So guys, yeah, don't forget to really spend time on your detailing. Well, after that really very intricately realised plot and scene, we move to something very different for plot 103. We have superheroes by observing, and this seems to be a plot showing off the work that observing has done on getting good at humanoid organics, and I don't know, they have started with some superheroes, some fantastic Marvel and DC superheroes here, and they're really good attempts. But there are some things that we can suggest when working on these humanoid organics to help improve your builds. They are, first of all, really well proportioned. The head is the right size in proportion to the body and the legs overall, which is not easy to do when working with blocks like this in Minecraft. There are a few things though that I might suggest, and they are mainly around the poses that you choose for your organics. You can see these are very upright poses, very soldier at attention, perhaps you might describe them as. One thing that could really start to elevate your organics, I really would suggest, is having a look at some slightly more dynamic poses. Try thinking about slight bends in the elbows and the knees. It's very, very rare to see someone standing so completely straight if you look at them side on. No bends at the elbow or the knees at all. That's really quite unusual, and it makes them feel maybe a touch robotic. So when you're trying to improve, think about those little bends at the very least. If you're going to be even more ambitious, think about posing them even more interestingly, maybe in action, doing something rather than just standing. But this is a really great start, and obviously this Build It has got a bright future ahead of them if they keep working as they are. So well done observing, thanks for letting us have a look at your superheroes. Now we move on to something slightly more futuristic here on plot 104, CYBERCITY SLUMS by Panda Tiger 615. And this is a really good effort at a modern plot. It reminds me somewhat of another plot we saw, I think possibly in the first episode we ever did here on the channel, looking at creative builds. And this is another good example of skyscrapers and city building. These fortified defences on walls particularly, I think, are great. The detail on the front walls there is good. You notice how it's not a flat wall, but there's lots of indentations and things coming out on the front to give lots of detail and life. There are a few things that I would like to suggest that might have improved this plot ever so slightly. First thing, strange title for the plot. This doesn't to me look like a slum in any way. It looks very neat and tidy. When I think of a slum, I think more dirty, grimy, think Blade Runner, and this looks very clean and urban. So maybe if you're going to think about titles, think about what might really properly reflect the builds that you're working on. A small thing to note as well, if you'll notice, these are obviously copied and pasted, these buildings onto the bases, and be careful with the details, guys. If you're going to make a base for a building, look, they kind of stick over the edge in places. This massive square building on this round platform, and the edges stick off the edge of the platform, and this happens throughout this plot as you go around. Look, this circular plot building completely not on its base. So guys, if you're building bases for buildings, make sure the buildings sit on them. It sort of spoils the illusion of this being a skyscraper, because if this massive huge heavy building has no support underneath it, it starts to look like it's not really a building. I know a small thing, but we're looking for things to improve your build skills here. So a small but important thing to note. I like the use of a limited palette here. The dark greys, light greys and whites really do work to keep this plot together. I might suggest maybe try and introduce a few hints of colour here and there, just to give the build a bit more life. Might just make it pop just a little bit more. But on the whole, really good cityscape. Well done for that, Panda Tiger, and keep up the good work. We now arrive at plot 105, Forest View by RONONIC, and I will have to be careful here because over on the Townie server, RONONIC is my mayor, so I can't do anything too much to offend him, but we will try and be as unbiased as possible. So this plot, whilst a perfectly admirable effort with some good terraining, is lacking a little something. Sorry, RONONIC. And I think that's my first point. This plot lacks a focal point. I suppose you could say that the small lake here could be considered a focal point, but it's not really got something that really stands out as this is why we're looking at the plot. So definitely something that needs to be considered when you're planning a plot. Make sure that there is a focal point. I think RONONIC has tried to use this small hut here perhaps as a focal point, as it's the only building on the plot, but to be honest, it doesn't feel quite enough. And another thing which I have to say is really letting the plot down is the amount of just plain old Mojang trees that are on here. If you're going to call your plot a forest, please put some time into making a real, honest to goodness, creative forest, and that means making some proper trees. So there are a few good things. What I do like is that where he's used flowing water here. I know a lot of people, when they do creative water, they use stained glass, but on this one we have flowing water. He's done a really good job of making sure that the water flows correctly, which adds a little something. Everything flows down in the correct manner. There is nothing as immersion breaking as watching that weird funky effect of water flowing in random directions in Minecraft, so that's a good thing. On a point of realism, and I don't suppose this matters completely, but if you were going to have a river flowing into a lake, you would almost always have a river flowing out the other side somewhere, where the water flows into the lake and then the water flows out towards the sea somewhere. So obviously a knowledge of geography there helps you to figure out how to plan a plot. Now, I do like the little spiked rocks on the rivers. That's a nice, unique point. But on the whole, as I said, this feels like a plot that's lacking something. And I think for me, it would have been really nice to see a little bit more life, a little bit more building, a little bit more detail. But certainly a really good start on some terrain there. Now we're going to take a brief detour from the real world into complete cuckoo land. For this one, I don't know if there's much we can learn from this, but it is certainly one that we have to have a little look at because it frankly is completely and utterly bonkers. It's like some drug-fueled fever dream. It's bizarre. It on one hand seems to be this random experimentation of voxel sniper brushes, as you can see, spammed all over here, air and blocks and sand, and it's just a mess. I mean, really, who thought this was ready for submitting as a plot needs their head checked. But at the same time, there is some actual building and actual structures in here, but that seem utterly bizarre. It's like a Dali painting if Dali used Minecraft. It's insane. What is this? Is it a boat? Is it a wall? What? Seriously, what is this? If you are the builder of this plot, come in the comments and please explain something, anything on this plot. It is utterly bizarre. I mean, what is this? It's insane. I mean, there's nothing else we can say. Guys, if you're on a creative server, if you're submitting plots, just don't. I mean, seriously, aim higher, do better. We don't need this. So now we're back to the land of the at least vaguely trying here on plot 107, Toxic Biome by Plasma Wolf 612, and there is an attempt here at a custom biome, it seems, and there are some nice ideas here, but it is far from a complete plot from my point of view. I do like the little trees with the fruit baskets underneath them. They are a nice, unique touch. They are the start of a nice idea, but this feels like an idea that hasn't fully been fleshed out. Some more actual terrain on this terrain would have been wonderful, but it's a nice idea. Guys, when you get these little flashes of inspiration, like the purple trees and the toxic idea, really go at it. If you've got one idea, think of like 6 more and build them. Put them all on that plot. Get it making feeling real or vivid or imaginative. So good start, Plasma Wolf, but I think you can do better. Keep working. Now we arrive at plot 108 and... Right. Seriously? Guys, finish your plots. So, in rather quicker fashion than my usual marathon videos, we've come to our last plot of the episode. We're on plot 109, Godly Encounter by MG Nuller. And I am pleased to say that after a whole lot of slightly pants, we have come to a much better conclusion to this video. A fantastic organic beast here. Very fantastical, and I hope MG Nuller doesn't mind me saying so, but looking very inspired by Uncomfortable here, with the pixel art walls and the fantastical beasts here. If that was what MG was going for, certainly it's a fantastic homage to that style and showing a lot of skill. And there are some interesting things that I think we can pick up and learn from in this. And the first thing I want to say is that I think the palette choice here is very clever, in that it's only very few and simple coloured blocks. Now, why would that be a good thing? Well, in this instance, it's because it helps you to see the actual shape and form of the organic better. Because there isn't a lot of detail and busyness in the colour, you can see the curvature and bulk of the arms and elbows and hands there as they grasp the rocks. It really helps you to get a feel for the shape and contours of this creature, which I hope was done on purpose. Certainly has made for a better build. Obviously, if you're building, you don't always have to do this with organics. Of course, if you do choose lots of colours and lots of busy, highly textured blocks, what you do is confuse the contours of the organic, which may work to your favour if you're struggling to get a shape, or if you don't want it to be a clearly defined shape that's easily seen by the eye. Then yes, by all means use those different blocks and textures, but do them purposefully, do them because you know you're trying to achieve a certain effect. So yeah, like the simple palette, I can definitely see the inspiration here. And just overall excellent monster organic. So well done, MG Nuller. I like that you have got a simple concept done really well. So great plot. So there you have it, folks. Another episode done. They said I couldn't do a short one, but finally I managed it. Guys, if you've enjoyed the slightly shorter episodes, let me know below. If you prefer the longer ones with a bit more in them, also let me know, because it helps me know how to plan for future episodes. So thanks for sticking around. Hope you've found something interesting and enjoyable. And guys, we'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you've enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.